Okay, welcome everybody. I believe we're live and we're recording this, so there will be an archive. I'm going to switch over to my notes here just to make sure I get everything right. So yes, welcome to everybody joining us today. Welcome to people joining us from the future. We will archive this to YouTube as well. I'm Sean. I'm the Director of Community Relations at Saylor, and I'm here with my colleague Devin Ritter, who is the Director of Education. And today, as you may have seen, we're going to be talking about getting college credit for open online courses, specifically Saylor Academy courses and partnerships and programs that we have. But I want to emphasize from the beginning that these sorts of things can be put in place with other organizations, with other schools. So in talking about what we do in some detail, hopefully we're serving our students and wider community and people who've just found us, but hopefully we're giving some ideas and some positive provocation to other people as well, so that these sorts of things can be replicated elsewhere. You'll see a chat channel. If you're on the web page, you'll see a chat channel that's part of the video box. If you have a Twitter account, you can log in there, but we're kind of encouraging people to use the IRC chat window that you will also see on the web page. If you're looking on a computer, it should be to the right of the video box. If you're looking on a smaller screen, it will be just below it on the screen if you scroll down. And that doesn't require a password or a Twitter account. And looks like we've got coming up on a couple dozen people in already. And our audio is fine. Excellent. Thank you. Because we have the sound off so that we don't create interference. Okay, so we're going to try to keep this short, pretty high level. So we'll leave time for questions by video, and then we'll also bring the video to an end, and we'll wade into the chat channels and just make sure we answer questions, talk, whatever, get the details out. Make sure people have links, et cetera, et cetera. So the first parts of our presentation is going to focus a little more on an audience of students. The final parts are going to focus a little more on an audience of potential partners, university administrators. But both audiences really should have something to gain from everything, I think. And again, hopefully provoking ideas, questions, what have you. And we're happy to talk about our stuff, and we're also happy to talk about not our stuff, what you could be doing with other open courses, that sort of thing, to the extent that we can. So I'm going to begin just with a really, really brief history and kind of our impact to date. And I'm not going to go deep. Saylor's been around. We've been operating mostly since 2008. But we kind of began at Saylor Academy. Our idea was to create higher college level learning and make it available to as many people as possible. But we also wanted to create value, and that means alternative credentials. That means making certificates work for advancement in the workplace, that sort of thing. And we are continuing to work toward that in partnership with our certificate provider, Accredible, who we've been working with since last year. Yeah. And that's kind of a whole other conversation that we'll actually be talking about pretty soon in our blog. And at the same time, though, we knew that college credit was important to a lot of people and was going to continue to be important. We also have always kind of had the idea of working with universities, colleges, students, not trying to undermine them, not trying to disrupt in a way that does damage, but again, to provoke ideas and conversations and kind of help everything run more smoothly for everyone. So our process is iterative. We began with 3 credit recommended courses in late 2012?
Yeah, November 2012.
November 2012. Began with 3 credit recommended courses. We built that up to 9. Then we hit the benchmark of 11, 17, and just recently, a couple weeks ago, we announced it, 22, which is over 60 potential credits for our credit recommended courses, or 2 years of college credit. So I'll start with a look at what we call the Saylor Direct Credit Program, and that's kind of our sort of our flagship owned program, where we're talking about Saylor Academy courses, Saylor exams, and then working with transfer partners, recommendation agencies, and a wider, their wider networks of colleges to connect students to credit. So the two main partners that we work with for recommending the courses are NCCRS, the National College Credit Recommendation Service, and ACE, the American Council on Education. And basically the way it works is we put our courses through a review. They recommend those courses ideally for a certain number of credits. And then when students pass a proctored examination for those courses, the students then get that recommendation. And both ACE and NCCRS have a network of partners and colleges and universities that have agreed to consider their recommendations for college credit for students. And we have also been working for the past several years on putting together our own group of partner schools that will guarantee credit transfer for the recommended courses. And so the ACE and NCCRS networks, each individually, I think, is over 1,000 schools potentially.
1,000 to 2,000. Obviously, some overlapping schools between those two organizations, but at least 2,000 schools combined that agree to participate in those recommendations and are somewhat knowledgeable about the fact of who those organizations are and when they make recommendations, what those recommendations mean, which means that if we send a transcript to some of those schools, there should be good possibility that students would be able to get recognized transfer credit for them.
Cool. And that's something that the geographic extent is kind of predominantly the United States, with a couple of schools in Canada, but a lot of those schools, and including many or maybe most of our partner schools, either have significant or even dominant online programs and have opportunities for international students as well who are interested in attending an American school in person or virtually for a degree. With that, I think I'm going to transfer over to Devin, who's going to be talking a little bit more about, I guess, the transfer credit partner schools and moving on to some other special programs.
Yeah. So as Sean mentioned, the ACE and NCCRS networks include thousands of schools that students could potentially take those credit recommendations and transfer into towards a degree program. But beyond those schools within the networks, we wanted to make sure that we had some kind of guaranteed pathways for students. So early on, once we got those first 3 recommendations, we began building and solidifying relationships with a number of schools who have become our partner schools in this kind of credit transfer process. So right now we have 15 different colleges and universities that will guarantee transfer of most, if not all, of our ACE and NCCRS recommended courses. Like as Sean said, most of those have online programs and allow students from all over the country, if not all over the world, to be able to enroll. One of the kind of early focus points and kind of sticking points that we looked for when we started working with schools and having partner schools was partnering schools who serve the same type of student that Saylor does. So largely non-traditional students, a lot of adult students who are going back to school or who are finishing degree programs, who themselves, have restrictions on when they might be able to, attend schools. So schools that are very flexible with their programs, serve students online, have a lot of different sessions for courses, and kind of cater to the non-traditional student who has a lot of things going on in their life but still wants to be able to get an education. So that's very important to us. Also, a lot of these schools are very affordable. Not only once they're there, the tuition for those courses. I mean, we understand that if a Saylor student is coming from us going to a school, there's likely a reason why they started with Saylor in the first place. And a lot of that reason why we've grown our base is the fact that our courses are free and open. So understanding that as we suggest schools for students to go to, keeping that financial aspect in mind, that when we ultimately transfer credit to somewhere, that it's not going to be breaking the bank for them later on to finish the rest of that degree. And this is caught on. Our partner schools, we've been able to send students and send credit to lots of different schools, both within our direct partner network as well as other schools in the ACE and CCRS network. To date, depending on what the actual cost of tuition and credit would be at that ultimate school, we estimate that students who have used our Saylor Direct courses and transferred credit have saved upwards of $400,000 in tuition based on taking our tuition-free courses first. And that's kind of, we think, just a start, even though it's been around for a couple of years, but in the last year, we had as many completions as in the previous 2 years, and it's continuing to grow, and we're continuing to get more transfers. So we're going to hopefully continue to see upward growth of potential cost savings for students, which is kind of why we started doing a lot of this in the first place. So now I'll kind of move on to one of our really special programs that kind of grew out of what we previously talked about, and that is our open course option Associates of Science in Business Administration degree with Thomas Edison State University. Kind of a mouthful.
We call it the open course option for ASBA.
Yeah. Or just open ASBA as even shorter hand. But that really grew out of the fact that we had started developing these courses that were available for free and for credit. We had also worked with Thomas Edison separately to align some of our courses to their own credit by exam program. And as those grew and as our relationship grew, we got closer and closer to the opportunity for students to be able to use Saylor courses to prepare for an entire associate's degree worth of education, specifically in business administration discipline. That program has been around for about 2 years now. It's changed a little bit over those 2 years, just based on updates to general education requirements at Thomas Edison State University itself. But as of right now, students can take all but one course directly through Saylor. There's only one course that Saylor doesn't have a version of, which is a requirement for that degree program. So students would have to take that at Thomas Edison. But factoring in even the cost of that course at Thomas Edison and additional fees and fees for the proctoring of the Saylor courses that you could take, a student who would be starting with 0 credits could complete that entire degree for $2,845 if they were in-state New Jersey resident. Even if they were an out-of-state or international student, they can complete all 60 credits and get that degree for just over $3,100, which is a massive savings compared to what that degree would cost normally at Thomas Edison State University in their own regular version of their ASBA, and obviously a big savings as compared to lots of other colleges and universities where a student might go to get an associate's degree. So that itself has been picking up. We've had a little over 600 students who have expressed interest in that program directly through our site, kind of enrolling informally in that program and the courses within it. Of those 600 students, 89 of them have already formally enrolled at Thomas Edison and are pursuing that degree. Many of them probably, I don't have the specific figures on how many credits each started with, but understanding that Thomas Edison is a school that a lot of students come in with some credits, most of those 89 students probably aren't working from start to finish. They're coming in with some of those credits already. So we can expect to probably see some of those students graduate within the next 6 months or a year, given how much they already came in with, or how much they had left to complete. So it's pretty exciting. It's a new thing as far as we knew, the first of its kind in being a pretty much fully open, self-paced, asynchronous course option that leads to a degree, especially for as low cost point as it is. And so we're hoping that continues to pick up steam. And one of the big things about it is it's completely replicable with other schools. So it's obviously a benefit to students because it's a landing point for a degree, but other institutions could very easily kind of mimic this program that we've put together because the courses are open online to anyone, they're free, They're self-paced, and students can start them at any time. And there isn't any extra work for Saylor to offer it to students from one school or students from another school. It's just kind of the willingness of different schools to be able to allow for the intake of those students and to find creative and flexible ways to price tuition and fees to make it so that students are actually saving money by taking free courses that are recognized. And so since that came about, we actually have done a similar type of program that actually leads to either an associate's or a bachelor's, as well as internationally recognized credentials, which I'm going to let Sean talk about a little bit.
Okay, I thought you were going to,
No, I'm not going to take it over.
I'm going to deviate from the script momentarily just to kind of add some commentary or reinforce some of what Devin said. And also a bit in response to a question that we had of, do we have students already enrolled in partner schools who take our courses to avoid paying tuition? And the answer is kind of a qualified yes. To get a more affordable version. And what's interesting is we actually have a lot of partner schools and schools that may become partner schools, transfer partner schools of ours, sending students our way essentially for that purpose, because there's a cost savings, or also because there's a scheduling situation, maybe a degree completion issue where students have a few credits that they need to get to a degree. And so this becomes a way that maybe a student doesn't have to pay, enroll in a full semester of tuition, or doesn't have to be on that semester schedule of, I need 3 more credits, I need 1 more course to graduate, but, it's January, I'm not going to be able to graduate till May. Well, maybe someone could get a course done in November, December, and make that January graduation date, be on the job market that much sooner, that sort of thing. So yeah, the program Devin was leading into, the City Vision and Qualify degree track. This is something that our colleague Jeff Davidson, who is not with us on the video today, knows a great deal about. We've posted about it in our blog, social media. You can go to our forums, discourse.saylor.org, and read about it. We also have a landing page, of course, on our website. And just very briefly, it's essentially you can get a 4-year degree for under $5,000, and it's a combination of partners, us, Qualify in the UK, City Vision in the United States, coming together to recommend and recognize and provide courses. And there's sort of we've laid out on the page a track that students can follow to get the associate's degree, to get the bachelor's degree. The 2-year associate's degree winds up coming in at about $2,000 all told, and that includes fees for proctored examinations. That includes kind of any tuition in, that includes, let's see, so it's $600 of Saylor proctoring fees. It's $100 in Qualify's credit endorsement and transcript fee. It's $1,300 in City Vision tuition for 5 associate's degree courses, and that comes out to $2,000. And then the bachelor's degree comes in at $5,000. That's the $2,000 from the associate's degree, $800 in qualified tuition and accreditation, $200 in proctoring fees for Saylor Academy exams, and then $2,000 in City Vision tuition. So very broadly too, a benefit to schools with this, and part of the idea that we're working with colleges and with students rather than against them, is that in many cases, from our perspective, I think the value proposition to schools can be students who are in danger of leaving for various reasons, students who've already left and need to be encouraged to come back to complete a degree, and also just in sort of the plain business side of it, sometimes just throughput of students, taking maybe relatively longer graduation, years to graduation, shortening that, being able to serve students at a lower marginal cost. And we're a small staff. We sort of provide this open courseware. We provide these connections. we provide the support we can, and even sort of the customer service level support we can. One thing that we don't personally do, and that colleges do really, really well for the most part and have done for a long time, is provide the academic advising, in some cases providing tutoring and other student support services. And so just speaking on the broad philosophical level, that's why working with schools is a really great way to get this done. Also, very generally, I've been kind of surprised. I think where we're seeing this growth, there are a lot of students, and probably a lot of students watching today, who have known about this sort of thing for years. They're cobbling together degree programs from a variety of sources, schools, bringing transcripts together, and they're getting really, really creative about it. And it's something that I think your average typical degree seeker certainly in the US isn't really aware of. So it's a story that is beginning to get out there. It's a story that really, I think, needs to be told and is going to get more and more popular. So part of our job is to make it as easy as possible for students to find the information, to make use of the information, and to connect to schools and connect to credit. So I really left the script there. So I'm going to turn it back to Devin as I'm running out of breath. And this is a little more the institution-specific thing. So far, we've talked about things that are open to kind of all students. There's a strong focus of United States-based students, but again, really, a lot of these programs and degree tracks are open to international students, and many of them, maybe most of them, are fully online. But in terms of how schools can be using OER, how schools can be using OpenCourseWare to create positive impact for their students, we've got a couple decent examples that are about to come up. And some of these we go out and find, and some of them kind of find us. We put the stuff on the internet. We have our OpenCourseWare. We have a bunch of open textbooks on our saylor.org/books page that individual faculty or departments will use. And so, either people are using these on a very discrete semester by semester basis, but sometimes that grows into something more and something with more impact. So I'm out of breath. I'm turning it to Devin.
All right. So Sean mentioned, in addition to the Thomas Edison project and the City Vision project, which are really designed to be open to students anywhere who might not yet be affiliated with an institution and are looking for places that kind of fit their needs and their schedules. Both those programs are really great for those students in providing free access to courses, affordable credit, earning opportunities, and then ultimately a landing place to get that degree. But we have also worked with schools who are specifically looking to provide better options to their students that are already affiliated with them. So one specific really cool project that we worked on was with University of Memphis, and it was called Project Finish Line. This was really initiated by the university, and kind of we got involved with it when they kind of learned of our OpenCourseWare. And really what they were seeking to do was re-engage former University of Memphis students who had already earned 90 credits towards their degree, but for whatever reason didn't finish that degree. And usually that whatever reason was costs were getting too high, their schedule wasn't allowing them to continue to come to campus, take courses on that specific schedule where University of Memphis courses were offered, and kind of life got in the way. And because of that, they came really close to getting a degree, but they didn't ultimately get it. So Project Finish Line, University of Memphis was trying to find a way to re-engage those students. And one thing they didn't want to do was just say, hey, you only have 30 credits, come back, take these same courses that you were trying to take before in the same way that didn't work for you before. And they tried to really find different options for students to be able to kind of earn that credit and get that degree. And one of those options was for them to allow students to take Saylor's free open courses and bring that credential to the University of Memphis and have that awarded as credit. One of the kind of unique differences between the Memphis program and our other programs is the fact that Memphis engaged their own faculty and did their own review of our courses. So a lot of the reason why our City Vision project and our Thomas Edison project are able to work is because ACE and NCCRS and Qualify did a review on behalf of basically all schools in their network and said these courses are recommended for a certain amount of credit we can transfer, and schools should accept that credit. With University of Memphis, they looked at courses that hadn't gone through any of those other review processes yet, but were specific to the needs of their students, and they had their own faculty dive into our courses, look at the learning outcomes, look at the structure, look at the content and the assessments, and they deemed themselves, if our students were to take these courses, it's the same level of learning that they would be getting from us, and therefore we should award credit to our students for that. And again, they didn't put any costs on the students to access the courses. The only cost to students was getting that credit transcribed. So in the initial pilot, 172 students re-engaged with University of Memphis and graduated. Not all those 172 students specifically needed Saylor courses, but of the students who did use Saylor courses, they took and completed 223, earning 669 hours of credit, with a savings of over $217,000. So that's money that University of Memphis didn't collect as tuition. Instead, they opted to give students a really affordable pathway of doing this, and allowing them to use free courses instead. And the question that comes up to them when they're talking about this, for kind of shocked administrators and faculty, is why would you possibly do this? Kind of give up all this tuition money. And for them, the answer, speaking on behalf of them, I guess, the answer is kind of twofold. One, it is the fact that these were their students, and those students didn't finish, and they wanted those students to finish, and they wanted to kind of re-engage them and get them to that place where they needed to be and wanted to go, 3 or 6 years previously when they initially signed up at University of Memphis. But also, there's a really good return on investment for institutions in these sorts of programs, in the fact that University of Memphis, like many other schools, is a performance-funded school. So the more students who graduate, the more the state looks at that, and the more they contribute funding towards those institutions. And this program in particularly, because they're looking at students who, for whatever reason had to stop out at a certain point, students in that category often, were of a non-traditional type. A lot of students who were eligible for financial aid, who were by this point adult students, and all of those things kind of increase the potential funding when students of that type do eventually go on to graduate. And so while Memphis was passing up on potential tuition, although really they weren't, because those students weren't there anymore. They were really gaining more funding, and they were increasing their own institutional mission of providing education and graduated students, and moving them along towards career outcomes and goals that they had initially come to Memphis for in the beginning. And so again, this is the type of program that really any school that's willing to kind of invest the time to look at Saylor courses, or to kind of do something unique and give students opportunities beyond what is in their traditional wheelhouse or is in their traditional offerings, is really easy to replicate. And so we hope more and more schools kind of look at different options like this. And we know they are. There's lots of examples of some schools working with different MOOC providers and open course providers. But this one, it's particularly interesting to us because we were a large focus with that. But also, I think one of the potentials with our courses, and we'll finally get to the OER part of this Open Education Week meeting, is that...
Is that what this is?
That is what this is. Is that, so in a lot of these cases, students are coming to us, they're taking our courses on our site. But given the way that we've designed our courses, it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. There's lots of schools and there's lots of organizations who, for whatever reason, might need to offer these courses themselves within their own learning management system in offline formats in different varieties of places. And they can do that using Saylor courses because Saylor courses are openly licensed. So whether they just copy and paste course content right from our site, or request to get the Moodle files or common cartridge files so that they can upload those courses right in their own system. That's something that we are willing and able to do, and we want people to do, because we want to make sure that the actual, is it 5 hours or 4 hours now?
5 hours.
5 hours of
Mr. David Wiley.
Of open are actually used when it comes to our courses. That's how we develop them ourselves, and we hope other people do that with our courses so that they can offer their own versions, and ultimately what we've put together can have a larger reach than what we can perhaps provide ourselves. So with that, I'm going to go back to Sean to wrap things up, and then we can get into answering some questions.
Yeah, and I'll spit out what's in my head. We're just kind of a few minutes away from closing. Interestingly to me, part of what we do, we've been in the open education and OER, open educational resources space for a number of years. So we've seen a lot of really positive changes. We've seen a lot of things that take a long time to change. What's kind of interesting to me, it's fun, but it's also, I'm waiting for it to progress, is we don't just make open courses and credentials and that sort of thing and credit opportunities. We also spend time educating people, individuals, organizations, consultants who work for us about open licenses. And so that's becoming more and more known, and the idea that by applying an open license to something, you can kind of get a sense of what the permissions are. You don't have to ask special permissions, which is really nice. And then we have the open courseware that's ours, but there's other OER out there, and the big news right now is OER materials are being more and more used in higher education. Open textbooks, big news. Cost savings to students, all of which I think is really, really good. It's a positive. It's getting the information and the conversation out more into the mainstream. So I think something to remember, though, too, is that open courseware is still certainly a thing. And as Devin's been talking about, there's this situation where a school can take this open courseware and they can turn it into degrees and credit for their students. And it can be our open courseware, but it can also be somebody else's. It can be a school that we've partnered with, a program we've helped create, but it can be some other program, some other school.
In fact, there are probably lots of other schools and lots of other programs that we don't know that are using our stuff, and we encourage that because that's the whole point of open. And as we mentioned, our courses wouldn't be our courses, wouldn't even exist if we didn't so heavily use and rely on OER and our own remixing and adapting and hosting of that material. And so just as we benefit from the community of content creators who put open license on their content, we hope that people benefit from the open license that we put on our courses as a whole and find unique ways to use those within their own settings and contexts.
Yeah, and this is a true side note, but we began with a process of curating openly available content, not necessarily open content. And part of what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years is working pretty hard with the bulk of our courses to replace them entirely with openly licensed OER materials to really make it as simple as possible.
Yeah,
which is good. So just a quick wrap up, I guess. We can there's some links on the webpage. Saylor.org/credit is a great place to begin. But if you're viewing if you're viewing our website, saylor.org, on a mobile, hit the little menu grill bar and explore our menus, explore our partner programs, that sort of thing. There's a good amount of information if you just sort of browse around. I'm going to go through some of the questions that have come up in the video channel itself, just to make sure we don't lose those or ignore those. And I know that Jeff and Nathan and perhaps some others have been handling the Saylor side of the IRC chat, which is great. We will wait in there momentarily. So yeah, for students, explore the credit guide, look at the options, look at how to begin, get in touch with us with questions. For institutions, organizations, schools, look at the kinds of partnerships that we've found, and then decide for yourself, is this a partnership that I can create somewhere else, replicate with another organization? Great. Is it something that maybe we can help with? Outstanding. We'd love to hear from all of you. And then, yeah, just leave questions in the chat. Again, we'll keep that going for a while until it sort of winds down and make sure we go deep. So without further ado, I'm just going to look briefly at what we've had in the sidebar of the chat. And something that I'll say too, saylor.org/contact or contact@saylor.org is our email address. Several staff monitor that, so we are able to respond usually pretty quickly and make sure it gets to the right person. And you know, when you hear back from us, you're hearing from one of us, from somebody who's in it deep all day. So we have questions. I'll say there's one about English communication that we can look at. So our courses website is learn.saylor.org. You can also get to it from the main header menu on our website. And everything's broken down there by area of study. You can explore any of our courses without having to sign in or create an account. So please feel free to do that. You can click through and get a sense for what the course offers. Every learning material, everything except quizzes and final exams, you do not need an account for. So look through, get a sense of what works, how it works, whether a course is right for you, and then go to how to get started in the menu to do so. So we are going to go ahead and sign off on the video and switch over to IRC. And thank you for joining us, and happy remainder of Open Education Week. Oh, finally a pitch for Open Education Week. We've tried to do it in our postings for all of this, but go to Open Education Week, all one word, .org. Look at the different events, look at the different resources available. There's a ton, and they will be available, many of them. They'll be archived, they'll be available all year round. People are posting resources that kind of always exist, that are new, that have been refurbished. Take a look around because there's some really, really great opportunities in there. All right, thank you very much.